All right. Good morning, good afternoon, I should say. Good afternoon to all our guests, our student government. Before I introduce our distinguished guests, the Thompson sisters and their mother, I'd like to first give a warm greeting from the land that I'm on, which is the Ohlone territory. Specifically, I live in the district of Aramai, which is now known as South San Francisco. I'd also like to welcome in all the spirits in good vibes from the Thompson sisters lineage, both their Samoan and their Chumash blood. And I'd also like to honor our deceased teacher who has passed on for the last 3 years now. We've been without him. But both the Thompson family and I we're under his tutelage and still under his tutelage spiritually, which is Papa Gerard Tepehu. So I'd like to say Yorana. But now I have the great honor to introduce the Thompson sisters. I'll start actually with the mother, which is the first person I was friends with out of the family. Their mother is Leandra Thompson, married to Uncle Eddie Thompson. Auntie Leandra is director of the group Vai Hau Nui, and she is an amazing cultural practitioner. She is absolutely someone I look up to in terms of knowing how to respect and learn a culture that isn't yours, but knowing how to embrace it and knowing how to also pass that knowledge on to students who are willing to learn with an open heart. Auntie Leandra has 4 children. Their son is not on camera today, but I'll start with their eldest daughter, which is Jessica. Jessica is a great friend of mine also, a wonderful Ori Tahiti dancer, also a great Siva Samoa dancer, and brings today a lot of experience and knowledge being the eldest of the sisters. And then we have if y'all are looking at the spotlighted picture, in the middle is Ciara Thompson. Ciara is the middle sister, but definitely I'd say the scholar of the family. She's always talked to me about research and writing, and we've always vibed off a lot of the kind of cultural themes behind the dancing. So just someone that I vibe really well with in terms of my interest in the culture as well. And then we have the last sister, which is the one in the hat, which is Leah Fa'apisa Thompson, who is now Teho Tata. And Pisa and I are really connected too because we're a very rare breed of Americans that have decided to marry folks from Tahiti. Not decide to, but it happens, right? You fall in love. So we both also are raising half Tahitian children, so children outside the Whenua. And that's really something that is a huge responsibility. So it's something that I also share in close connection with PISA. So each of the Thompson sisters is here today to share with us a piece of their heritage, which I know is something very close to who they are. And that's why I'm just so grateful, because it's something that I know that most folks are not always willing to open up. But for me, I let them know, I said, my students are learning about Native American heritage for Native American Heritage Month. And our student government is interested in connecting with folks from a Native lineage to talk with them, not just about, culture and show like artifacts and things like that. It's not always about that, but the experiences are your internal artifacts. The experiences are your artifacts that you share out with the world, right? And so when all the awesome stuff that is held in museum fades away, really all you have left are the people and their stories and from their heart. And so that's what I really wanted to get at today, and what I wanted them to share with y'all is the fact that like most of y'all students, they're also close in age to you, so they can speak to you on a level in which I can hope that you can relate. But I also know that many of our students at Skyline College have either never been exposed to any Native culture or any Pacific cultures as well. And so for me, this is a great opportunity, I feel, for our Trojans, our Skyline College students, to again hop on this opportunity to listen, learn, and understand. And so welcome, Thompson family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Ryan, for the introduction. We were not prepared for that awesome introduction. We put some, little thing we were going to do. We're the Thompson Sisters and introduce ourselves. But that was an awesome introduction. You said a lot of what we were already going to cover. Thank you so much for saying all that. We put a presentation together for you guys. I'm going to share it shortly on the screen, and then we will start about sharing. Can you see that, Ryan? Thumbs up. Is that okay? Good. Okay. So we did our names, but if you forgot, my name is Leah.
I am Ciara.
I'm Jessica.
And we're the Thompson Sisters. We are half Native American, Mexican, and we are Samoan. We hold a lot of culture in us, but like I said, we don't always get to talk about being Native American, and we don't always get asked, how do you feel about being Native American, or how do you feel with all going on as a Native American? So it's very nice. Thank you again for letting us share. Along with sharing some Chumash Native tribes, what we are, we'll go in more about that. We are also going to share a story that we made with our family. Rest in peace to Papa Jarad and our Tepehu family. They helped us create this story to present for a dance we did in 2016. It was a whole production we did. Just imagine doing something for so long. We've done teach and dance, and then you find out that there can be a chance that they're linked together. So we had a whole bunch of excitement doing this project, okay? So we're gonna go into some slides and then we'll break it down.
Well, before we started, I wanted to say, Ryan, you gave such a beautiful speech about my mom and dad. And unfortunately, she can't be on camera right now, but she is, I'm pretty sure she's listening. But I know she would want to say thank you. Like, that was so nice. And Dad,
it was like
too.
making me tear up the way you were talking. Even my brother, I was like, oh, my brother's not here. But it was so nice.
He's in LA right now, so he couldn't be here. But I know, they would want to say thank you so much for saying everything that you did. That was so nice of you. But okay, so moving on to our slides.
Okay. So, oh, did you want to?
Well, I was just going to say, how we are Chumash Native American is through my mom. My mom is Chumash Native American, and she's Mexican, and my dad is Samoan. And so that's how kind of our two cultures come in together for us. And so we're just going to be talking a little bit of background on the Chumash and Native American tribe, a little bit more background on our Tahitian dancing, because we've been dancing since, like Ryan mentioned, we've been dancing since we were all like 4 to 5 years old, and that's actually how we met, like he mentioned earlier. So we're just going to be giving you a little bit of background on both cultures and the research that we've done that helped create the story we did, and kind of shows like how these two cultures could have collided at one point in time.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I just like to say it was so nice to get reacquainted with all this info. I mean, we researched this in 2016, and then even when we were kids, I mean, this is so small, but we all did the same mission, Santa Ynez, because we knew the res was near there, so we just always felt connected to that. So it was so nice to go through all this information. So where we're going to start at first is I wanted to go over a map. This is of California, and I'm sorry it's so small, but I really wanted you guys to get like a big picture of
where we're located.
Yeah, of like where we're located, but also like how many different other tribes are all just in California.
And how big our tribe used to be, because prior to the missionaries, our tribe was huge.
Yes.
And then Ciara can, if you want to do the little pointer thing, she can show you where our tribes.
So we were all in here. So let me see. We were located on the 3 northern Channel Islands of Santa Barbara. So you'll see right here, 1, 2, 3. We were located here. And then also all up and down the coast right over here. And then you'll see Santa Barbara is here, and then also inland. So Also, we were really known for our complicated basket weaving, very stunning work. You can see all of that detail they have in there. And then also we were known for our money system. So instead of trading that they used to do for a lot of different tribes, they actually would take a little sea snail and they would take its shell, they'd crush it up, and then they started molding it into these rings that you see right in here. They put it on a twine of rope, and then that's how they would do their currency. If you had a lot, you were considered very wealthy. And then also the name Chumash means bead maker or seashell people, being that we lived on the coast. So we had a lot of maritime culture, meaning we used the sea and stuff like that, natural resources for their lifestyle. So we're just gonna go quickly into the next slide. And here's another example of what we're really known for, which is the cave paintings. You can see like way back in the old days, they used to use just charcoal, so it was black. But then later on, when they got a little bit more innovative, they started using pigments. So this one is red. You can see some black in there too as well. Actually, if you visit the Santa Ynez reservation, you can actually view these, but the only thing is it's not allowed to take pictures anymore because the flash, it was making it fade actually. But you can still go there, you can still view all of this stuff. It's really pretty. It was really ahead of its time. That's why so many people were interested in this stuff. And then also I briefly wanted to touch on this fish hook, which is made out of abalone. And this is a huge thing for them as well, because they were a maritime culture, like I said before. And then we also have their canoe, which they're also really known for. It's called a tamol. It was made out of pine and redwood logs. They were huge. It was really good for their trading. Like I said before with the map, they would go up and down the coast and they would trade in between there and then also in between the islands. Let's see. And then for their lifestyle, they found uses for almost every type of plant and animal available, which included food, clothing, medicine, their baskets, canoes, and their tools. So they're very innovative. They seen anything for natural resources and they thought about like, how could I use this and how can I expand, you know, our natural resources like that. Let's see. Like I said before, did you have something?
Oh yeah, sorry. So eventually we are going to tell you a story, and the fish hook and the canoe are very key to our story. I want to make it clear that we didn't just make up a story, that we actually saw this stuff on
the History Channel.
The History Channel, and they're the ones who kind of guided us to make this story. Like, these are actually facts that came up, and Jessica will talk more about the studies that we found, that it is possibly true that the Polynesians and the Chumash Native, which exactly what we are happened to connect way back when. Okay.
And then just concluding their lifestyle, they were very aware of not to be greedy with nature. That was their mindset. They always looked to seasons and the times of nature, and they made sure they wouldn't overfish. They knew what was growing at what time, just so they would able to sustain themselves over a long period of time. So that was a huge thing for them as well, just as one last thing for their lifestyle. And then we can start going into how we started making the connections. So, oh, actually one more thing. I wanted to go over modern day Chumash. So this is actually pictures of the girls and the boys in their regalia. They don't like it to be called costumes. Their regalia is something that is very spiritual to them. They hold very dear to their heart. A lot of pieces of their regalia is passed down to them from grandmas, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, great-grandmas, stuff like that. So it's something that you can't just pick up from the store. They definitely have people who specialize in making these for the powwows, but mostly it is passed down from family. The ideas for these costumes, I actually seen in an interview, it was said that they get them from dreams, from visions. So it's really a spiritual thing that they hold very close to their heart, something you can't just pick up from anywhere. And of course the dancing, it's how they express themselves, but the costumes for sure is like the visual of what they're dancing about and how they perceive that theme. So I just wanted to touch on that. There's definitely a reservation, like I said before. You can definitely visit in Santa Barbara. They will welcome you with open arms. They definitely want people, not just their tribe, to come and visit and gain knowledge about, you know, the powwow, about how they are, and about how they were like way back when.
Yes, they literally host classes inviting the outsiders to come and educate themselves on our culture.
Yes.
You know, they're not very like, okay, no, this is our culture, just keep it within us. They want people to know. So it's the proper way to go about learning about our culture.
I think even like the community college in Santa Barbara offers a language class.
Yes.
Our language is called Samala. They offer some Samala classes there. I'm not sure if they have it at UC Santa Barbara, but definitely in the community college they do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna head to the next slide.
Okay.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the research that we did. So how we came about this is there was actually a documentary on the History Channel that my mom and my dad happened to find, talking about how Polynesians could have made it to the coast of California, and more specifically, our tribe, the Chumash tribe. And so being that we are Samoan, Polynesian, and Chumash Native American, this was like huge for us, because we're like, oh my God, what are the chances?
There's a connection.
Yeah,
you know?
there's a connection of being the two ethnicities. I mean, we're also Mexican, but these two ethnicities that we are coming together. And so we were so excited about this. And so we started to like dive into research, and like we were really interested in it. And two of the main scientists that we had found were advocating for this theory was an archaeologist named Terry Jones from Cal Poly State University, and a linguist named Catherine A. Clark from UC Berkeley. And so their the main things they were looking at that could have possibly bring their theory to life, where the fishhooks that we had mentioned earlier, language similarities, the canoe styles, and carbon dating. So with the language similarities, there's two specific words that they were looking at. It was the Chumash word tomolo'o, which means sewn plank canoe, and the Hawaiian word kumula'a, which means useful tree in Hawaiian. There's an article that dives deeper into like the linguistics of it, but we don't have a lot of time.
Sorry, really quickly.
Fresh and informative.
Really quickly, I just wanted to touch on, you can see here from Hawaii, they do have optimum routes using seasonal trade winds, you know, that would take them to over here near LA, near Santa Barbara. So it was definitely, you know, a chance that they could have made it over there. Like it wasn't like so far out there, like, you know, maybe from, okay, for example, like Tahiti, it's pretty far out there, you know, for them to be all the way over there. But for Hawaii, right over here, where they do have a language similarity, there could be a possibility that they made it over there and they made that connection.
Right. And so like also, if you look to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Polynesian canoe next to the Chumash canoe. The Chumash canoe is smaller, but the similarity, the construction of the canoes is what really brought them together, because there are no other canoes in this time period that the Polynesians would have been traveling to the coast of California. There's no other canoe, Native American canoes that were like the Chumash canoes. So traditionally most other canoes were, I think, dug out logs or like sewn together reeds. But the Chumash canoe is the only one that is constructed like the Polynesian canoe, meaning they're sewn together, put together by tar.
Which was a huge game changer for them, because like I said, they lived on the coast. So it was huge for them to be able to travel like all up and down the coast for trading, to go in between the islands. Like it was a really good game changer for them. That's why they
it also allowed them to for deep sea fishing, because other Native American other tribes' boats couldn't make it out that far. You know, so this boat that they had was pretty advanced, and it's the only one that was similar to the Polynesians, the one they used that travel across the whole ocean. And the fish hooks. The fish hooks were also really similar to Polynesian fish hooks, which was also, like Ciara said, a game changer, because they were allowed to go that far out for deep sea diving and get the fish hooks, you know, to get the fish out there.
And I'm sure when they compared them to around that time period, the Chumash natives were the only tribe that had that same fish hook that the Polynesians had. So that's why a lot of people saw that connection, because they were like, well, they're the only natives who have that type. They had to learn it from somewhere, you know? So that's where they made that connection as well.
Yeah. And the last key point that the scientists were studying was carbon dating. So carbon dating is measuring the amount of carbon in a sample to determine its age. And they had carbon dated abalone shells from a Chumash headdress. And so from them, they were determined like that these abalone shells actually came from Polynesia, and it puts them in the time period they thought the Polynesians would have traveled to the coast of California. And so using all of those key factors in our research, that's how we were able to incorporate that into a story that we had created to present for a competition we did in 2016. Pisa can tell you a little bit more about it.
So going to the next slide.
Oh, that's our mom and dad.
This is our mom and dad. Very important to why we're even telling this story. Like I said, we literally did this story for my mom's group. So she's key point in this whole presentation. And then my dad, being Polynesian, her #1 supporter, they tied together as a Chumash tribe member and a Polynesian native person together.
It was so always said, you know, my mom would always say like, maybe we have such a strong connection because they had met in a past life. And so they always used to say that. And then it was by chance that they had seen that documentary on the History Channel. And my mom just ran with it. And she was like, oh my gosh, we're not the first ones to think about connection being made between these two, you know? So this is just a visual just to show you these are our parents. And this was the inspiration behind the whole story. So.
Okay, so next we come to the Maohi people, which is what we're going to tie in with our story. I want to make it clear we're taking two cultures, which is the Tahitian culture and the Chumash culture, and we're tying them together in for our story. So the Tahitian are the Maohi people, which are also the Tahitians, are very rich in culture. The islands were first settled by migrating Polynesians as early as 500 BC. They were later discovered by the European explorers during the 1600s and eventually colonized by France, why they're called French Polynesia today, okay? So next I'm going to hold on before pressing play. We have a little shoot for you guys from our video, our dance production that we put together. We would love to share the whole thing, but it is a kind of a long video. And I know on Zoom, it's not always the best visual when we're sharing video on Zoom. So if you want to look at the full video, you can search Heva Irino Vai Hau Nui on YouTube. You're welcome to do that after the presentation. But right now we are going to just play the beginning, which starts off with our great friend Inetepe, who she's doing the orero, which in Tahitian she's saying basically the story to the audience we're performing for. Eventually it'll go into the story of Hiro, and I'll get to more of that. And then I'll pause it to explain what's going on and then tell the further story and a little bit of why we made the story the way we did, okay? So I'm gonna be pressing play. Did you guys want to say anything before, or is that okay?
That's good.
Okay, so we're going to press play and then you guys sit back and relax and we'll tell more about the story.
Te hoi tau, e tau a wiwi, te waine te hoi aitu, o hiro tawa aitu ya. E aitu tuwiro, I te perawa ai, I te hoi po, a tai ano ai oia, watupu te hoi ora mana hiru, wa mara maro a te miti, e te mani no hiru. I te aku ai oia, I te hoho a wahine, te harawiti e te nene. I pi I whahinaro atu ai oia. Hei, o ai tō e hoa. I te reira I hoa teime, o e roa e ra taua hoho a wahine. O te orama.
Okay, so that's the intro of the story. Now let me tell you kind of a little bit what is happening there, the English version translating, sorry. So in this story, there's a, or actually I'm going to go to the next slide because it'll say it. Okay, so this is the story of Hiro, the vision seeker. First, you'll see that the girl is walking towards a man in the canoe. Side comment, the guy in the canoe is actually our brother, Eddie. So
if you want to know what he looks like,
that's him. But he played Hiro for us, and you can see that he has a feather. Now, in our story, the way it happens is that Hiro is going out to go fishing. When he's going fishing, he actually feels like a little bit eerie, and he feels different in the water. And as he looks in the water, he kind of has a vision. And she's in the water, which is Nakia, the girl walking to him. And she presents herself to him, and he feels so drawn to her. But as he tries to approach her, she disappears. So he is not giving up. He's like, he needs to find her. He feels so in love with her. He feels like he's so drawn to her, like that has to.
He comes back every single day looking for her because he's just so enamored. And then, he comes back home one day, he's sleeping, and the wind comes and talks to him and tells him, I know you've seen a beautiful girl, and if you ever want to find her, you're going to need to take your best boat, and you're going to need to travel for 300 days, okay? Because that's how long they said if they traveled from a Polynesian island all the way to where the Chumash were located, that's how long it would take. So he was supposed to travel for 300 days, and they told him, when you see the 5 birds, because birds usually fly around land, when you see the 5 birds, that's when you know you're supposed to stop. And then from there,
let me go to the next. During his voyage.
So these are the 5 birds here, and then the middle picture is of him when he's going on his long voyage, and then this last picture.
Yeah, let me move it. Hold on. Okay, so this last picture, let me make sure this is, oops. So we don't skip in our story. Okay, yes. Okay, so this last picture is finally Hiro goes to Nakia's land. He's found the land, he enters on, and he, of course, doesn't get Nakia just like that. He kind of has to fit in and see, okay, who are these people? They're obviously not Polynesian.
Like huge culture shock.
Yes, very different cultures, but he ends up actually showing Nakia's family, her tribe, how to build these canoes. And he shows them how to do the fish hooks so they can fish better and everything. So this is our story. And then, so after that, the chief of the lands, what happens to be Nakia's father, he feels very grateful, and he asks Hiro, what do you want in exchange for all that you've given us? And of course, Hiro's first thing is he wants Nakia. So going into the next slide, Nakia and Hiro end up together, and they actually go back to Hiro's land, and they let Nakia, there's a different change. So this is how it's possible that, okay, maybe for us that somebody falls in love, and that's why he went all this way just to find the person he loves. Going to the next slide. Okay. So that's the little story that we did to help us create of how can somebody travel so far just to go to the native lands. And one of our big thing was, well, maybe they were in love.
Yeah. It was kind of just like our tribute to both of our Native American side and our Polynesian side. After finding out what we did, and it's something that is still being researched, and so we kind of keep tabs on it. But just this story is very dear to us. First, because like Ryan had said, the Tepehu family, who our Papa Jadard, who he passed away, he helped write everything, and just being Polynesian and being Native Chumash American, what are the odds of finding out that your 2 cultures actually could have collided? That's why we wrote the story, and we kind of ran with it and made it a love story, and it's also a tribute to our parents, because that's who we are.
Yes. So quick explanation for the pictures. On the left side, you can see this is my mom. We're back on the native land for a powwow. She's wearing her Chumash shirt. But on the right side is also my grandfather. Now he is the reason we are Native American. You can see he has elephants on his head. He also lives.
Bears.
Oh, bears. Okay, it looks like elephants.
All right.
But
a crown of bears because.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just sick. But because bears in our Chumash culture are like the protectors, you know. I think in other cultures too, bears are very motherly. They're nurturing.
Yes.
So that's kind of his like.
No elephants here.
Yeah, but also he lives on the res too.
Yes.
He lives there.
Oh, nice. Dance at Vai Hau over the years
Oh,
too.
very nice.
Oh, cool. I didn't even know.
Oh yeah. So actually, let's go to before I start. Let's explain these.
So a few of you had some questions. I think I wrote them down right here. I don't know.
Oh, should I pull them up?
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
can.
let me
I don't
pull
know
them
who wrote what. I was gonna say. Thanks for the.
We have the Q&A after you guys are done.
Oh,
okay.
Let's just
Yeah.
and then go to these because it matches the Q&A
Yeah, this
Okay.
kind of
for the way to support. And all.
links in with the Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So actually, we can finish this and then we can show more when we enter the Q&As.
Okay. We're just gonna talk about we're talking about like ways to support the. Is that what you want to do?
Ryan, did you want to pull up the Q&As or should we?
Yeah, no, I got you. I have
Yeah,
them.
Okay.
we kind of made it tie into our presentation a little bit.
No worries, no worries. You can go back and share screen.
Okay.
Let me grab these up for you. So our students had some questions that there were a lot more, but I think that some of them were really, these were really strong. Okay, let's put it that way. I loved all the questions, but some of them were really global, like what political action do you think should be taken? And and I was like thinking, I don't know if they'll have enough time to answer such a big question, right? It's like a TED Talk topic.
Yeah.
So I went for like the ones that I felt that y'all could really kind of give a heart-to-heart with these. And then we'll just named it like lightning round. Y'all could take turns answering it, or if one has a strong feeling about answering it, you could take it instead of everybody else.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
The first came from Elaine. She's our commissioner of activities. She asked, how do you advocate for yourselves as an Indigenous person living in the United States? And how do you think people should educate themselves on Indigenous culture and lifestyle?
Okay. So I had a response for that. And so the way we advocate for ourselves as an Indigenous person is honestly to be successful, because I don't know if a lot of people know our tribe, and I think other tribes do it too, but I can't speak on, how other tribes operate. Our tribe pays
For education.
for education, if not all of it, most of it. So they pay for our education, extracurricular activities, health benefits, childcare, and
basically the things to set you up to be successful.
exactly. And what they want is to see the people and their tribe to be successful, because they want to elevate them and move them, into higher positions. So like they've paid for our school. The first time that we went to Tahiti, they paid for it in full. And mind you, that's me, my 2 sisters, my brother, that's my mom and 4 kids. And plane tickets to Tahiti are not cheap. And not only did they pay for the plane tickets, they paid for the schooling that we went to out there too. So, and they're even strict on the schooling that you go to. Like it has to be an accredited school. They have things like, they don't want you to go to a school like where you can't apply it to anything else. So they definitely want to see their people succeed.
Yeah.
And they set it up for them that way.
So basically the way we advocate is the way they give us stuff to succeed.
And then
we give them results of being successful.
Yeah, like any
show
like
them we
diploma,
work.
certificate stuff, we send it back to them because that's what they want to see. And then there's like we have little little monthly newsletters that they send out. I don't know if you guys can see it.
It's called Samala. That's what our language is called.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get this monthly all the time. They just give us information about the res and what's happening, if new programs, if they have any language classes.
Yeah, like, so when you, like, say you graduated high school or you graduated a program, you can send your certificate back and they print it out in the newspaper. And like, these are the people that are, you know, helping our tribe by, you know, they help us and we help them by just being trying to be successful and, you know, like, getting their people out there and educating.
Yeah, the best way we can advocate is to thrive. Yeah. Because, you know, back in the day, they had lost a lot of stuff. You know, when Spain came, you know, they came with new diseases and we lost a lot of history, a lot of language.
Tribe was decimated.
Yeah, so I feel like them coming back into this, they just want their people to thrive, you know? And then also to educate themselves, you can definitely, I mean, we said this in the past, visit the reservation.
Yeah.
They are so, like, they will welcome you with open arms. There's nothing wrong with asking questions and educating yourselves. They always give workshops like about the Tamil. You can definitely see it.
Not even just like, honestly, not even just like our tribe specifically. There's a bunch of powwows. Like, I think there's one in Stanford. There's one here in Vallejo down at the waterfront. I forget, our Chumash powwow is in October. Obviously, it was canceled this year. But I forget the dates. But if you look it up online, you should be able to find a list of, you know, where the powwows are held and at what time.
Yeah, they're very open to sharing.
Just be respectful.
Even in the colleges, they offer a language course for the college students there. That's how open they are to sharing our culture and for people to learn our lifestyle there.
Yeah.
Or books. There's a lot of books out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my God, thank you. That was such a great response.
I actually have a book. Here's one. I forgot I had it. So this is called December's Child. This is a book of our Chumash oral narratives. If you go on Amazon, they actually have a lot of books. You just kind of got to sort through them. There's another one that we have. This is a children's book.
Oh, this is our creation story.
Yeah, so this is about our goddess Hutash and how our Chumash people came to be created. And there's also another book that I want to buy, but it's like over $100. It's our rock paintings. So when I get enough money, I'll get that.
We're before we go into the next question, I want to let y'all know we made something called a Padlet, and we'll show it to you after. But it's like a digital kind of like a souvenir for students and for you folks to take with you after the event's done. But I'll put up the photos of December's Child and the Rainbow Bridge on there for sure.
Awesome.
Okay, so then here's the next one. This is from Sarah Tran, which is our Commissioner of Public Records. She wanted to know, what are some misconceptions about Native Americans that you would like to debunk or correct?
That we don't support people wearing Halloween costumes.
Or I would say more like,
actually just saying that in general, like, don't call it a costume. It shouldn't even be a costume. They refer to it as a regalia. It shouldn't be called, because it's something they hold very close to themselves, and it's considered very sacred because, like I said, they get these ideas for the regalia through visions, through dreams. So it's something they hold very close to themselves. So just saying that in general, like, don't call those costumes.
Or I would say, like, even just sharing the culture, like, we're not closed off to sharing our culture with people. What we are closed off to is, like, and this comes with any culture, it's kind of a touchy subject, is when things become a fad. You know, don't wear a headdress to a rave. Don't do that. You know what I mean? If you admire something, learn about it, and, you know, go to a local shop. Don't purchase, like, I don't know, Native American jewelry from Forever 21. If you want Native American jewelry, go to a Native shop and buy that. Because I think where a lot of people, like, especially Native, not even just Native, Indigenous people in general get pissed is, like, when things become a fad and people start, like, wearing cultural attire and not knowing what it's about. You know what I mean? Like, that is where people get mad. Like, if you want to rock some native earrings or Polynesian
Shop
gear.
local.
Shop local. Educate yourself about what you're wearing. Don't just, think this is so cute. Let me wear this. You know what I mean? Like, because that can be offensive.
Yeah, I mean, also, Ryan and Vai, you can probably relate to this too for the Tahitian costumes. I mean, just in general, I mean, everything has a meaning. My mom, when she was making the costumes for our presentation in 2016, the condor feathers, they love to use those for their skirts. So that's just another small thing that, it has a meaning behind it. They can't just use like any old feathers, you know what I'm saying? And then also, I don't think a lot of people think about this, but also what you refer to us as, for like Indians, like
we're not
some people
Indians.
don't like to be called Indians, even Native Indians. I mean, I think that's a little bit better, but Native Americans, some of them don't like it because they have Americans in it and they feel like it's just like,
I feel like that, that kind of goes into the next question. I'm reading it, but
for my opinion, I think Indigenous is a good way to refer to everyone, those people are native to the land. So I think that's,
but if you're like talking about a Native American and what tribe they're from, like, for a fact that, they're from the Chumash tribe, then call them Chumash.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Because Native American is also kind of a broad term, but if you don't know, that this person is Ohlone,
just
this
be
person
respectful
is Chumash,
around,
this person is, then it's just goes down to being
stuff
respectful.
Like
yeah.
Thank you for your comments. I see your guys' comments.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
They agree with us. Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah, but before I get into this next one, I want to comment about how much I admire the fact that y'all bring up the word regalia, because especially because I know that y'all are fellow educators, right? You guys have this, you have a following of students that are looking to you for this, but just the fact that you are using that word as like an everyday piece in your own lives. Vai and I, we talked about it too, because there's this kind of, San Mateo County has this campaign going on for Samoan and Tongan cultures, and they made a poster. It was at CSM. It says, it has a picture of a boy and girl in a faiva and a siva costume or regalia, and it says, "My culture is not your costume." But we were saying, she was saying to me, the difference with some of the other Pacific cultures and Tahiti is this whole kind of colonization aspect. The reason why the word costume still widely used, even in Tahiti, not just by us Tahitian dance community here in the US, is because if they break down the word costume, it means clothing from a certain time period or a certain style from a certain era. And so I guess it is very colonial mindset that they still refer to as costume, right? Because they're saying like, well, the modern Tahitian will wear like a Hollister t-shirt and some board shorts and some sunglasses, and the old school Tahitian will wear his tea leaves and his motto or his tihire, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So she and I were like reading about that online in French and English, and we were both telling each other like, it makes sense, doesn't mean we agree, doesn't mean that we think it's okay or she thinks it's okay, but she and I understood. And so for the time being, like that word in Tahiti is still being used for costumes, right? And even in our community now. But just knowing that like Vai Hau Nui and Hitiatea students will hear that from you folks as their leaders is just, I can't tell y'all how much I appreciate that, for real. Because cultural regalia is like a much more accepted word, I think, for all of us who are scholars to look at that and understand. And the word costume is problematic, right? It sounds like Halloween.
It makes me think of Halloween costumes, which I'm like, we're not dressing up. I'm like, it's a cultural aspect of us, a part of the everyday, like this is how we express ourselves. So that's what it always makes me think of. So I think regalia fits like much better.
Right, because I would never ever call like, say, like the taupo outfit, I would never call it like a costume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's how badly appropriated, like, say, Native culture and Tahitian culture has been, like, culturally appropriated by a lot of folks. Not calling anyone out. I'm just saying, like, because
Yeah.
the word costume is like normalized. That's
Yeah.
how badly
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that more folks like you could speak up, because I won't, right? Out of respect, I won't, as an outsider, as an absolute outsider. I'll let Vi and you guys speak up, but I hope that you do, and I hope that you push that word, because that's really important, right?
Mhm.
The words connect to how you think about it. And so how are the kids thinking about it? They're seeing it as a costume,
Yeah.
Mhm.
green mask, like a witch hat,
Yeah.
or it's gonna be seen more how it should be, like the Taupo outfit.
Exactly. Well
And it should
respected.
be
Mhm.
exactly, yeah. So I appreciate that piece of it. The next one actually came from the young lady who is one of our senators, who was writing to that she danced in Heva Arena also. And her name's Shirley. She asks, how has the history of Indigenous people affected you today? And was there ever a time your voice was really heard?
For the history of the indigenous people, I feel like, gosh, like I said, it spans way back to when they were colonized and stuff like that. I mean, they decimated like our history. We lost a lot of native speakers. I think the last native speaker actually passed away a couple years ago, but they were able to revive the language by working with the linguists who had studied the language for like a couple decades. So he was able to, thankfully, they actually came up with a dictionary, and they actually came up with an educational system in order to teach it back all to the res kids. But I can't imagine, like,
Yeah,
if they didn't, I mean,
it greatly affects us, because if you think about it, if our tribe, and not even just our tribe, I mean like all indigenous people, like Polynesians were really colonized too, and that we lost a lot of language, a lot of history, a lot of land. Our tribe, like remember, I don't know if you remember back to the map, how far up and down our tribe went, and now there was like four like sectors of a Chumash tribe. So our tribe is actually in Izenyo, and there's Barbenio, and there's, I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, and we had different dialects. Like that's how big our tribe was. And now to be condensed onto this little reservation, like if you could think, if we had never been colonized by the missionaries, like how
we would have thrived differently.
Yeah, we would have thrived way differently. So in a sense, it's like, yeah, we now, like, our tribe is getting some money, and we do have this, piece of land for ourselves, which is cool. They support our education. So I just think we would have been a lot different if we had never had the missionaries come.
Thinking about the question, I mean, how has it affected us today? I mean, imagine if we weren't pushed into on the res, and let's say we weren't in the Tahitian culture. I would say we would most likely be dancing Chumash Native or Samoan. It affects us tremendously. We probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. We probably would be on the res, or just learning in general, not on the res, and it would be more spread out. Like they said, we would be thriving a lot more. The second question was, there ever a time where your voice was really heard? So when we got this question, we really had to think about it, because like I said, we don't really get asked a lot about, oh, how do you feel Native American this, Native American that? But my sister, she had a really good story that I thought fit the question very well for how she felt heard in her situation.
Well, it's actually something that's like really small, but I don't think like my teacher at the time even understood like the significance of it. And it goes back to what Ciara was saying. So basically, I was in high school in my ethnic studies class, and we were talking about Native Americans, and he had asked if anyone in the class was Native, and I raised my hand, and I think like a couple other people did too. And he asked, do you prefer to be called Native American, or do you prefer to be called Indian? And I personally felt like, well, I'm not Indian. Indians are from India. I'm a Native American because I'm native to this land. And, another girl responded, like she felt like Indian was a little bit more personal because that's what her grandmother, I think, referred to themselves as. And so she's like, well, my grandma said it, so that's what I say. But it was just nice because no one had ever asked. Everyone automatically assumes like it's Native American or it's Indian. You know what I mean? And it is nice to have someone to ask, like, what do you yourself feel, what term best represents you? And like I said, and it's totally fine. Whatever you want to feel, whatever term that you feel best represents you, that's totally fine. To each his own. But it is nice to have someone to ask you, you know, what do you identify as? And then, you know, obviously this whole presentation allowing us to even, you know, speak to you guys about it. I mean,
this is allowing us to be heard, you know, sharing what we have to say.
I think also when we were prepping for the 2016 presentation, I mean, we have all these dancers, and of course you want them to know what they're dancing about, costume wise, you know, setting up the presentation on what dances to do. You want to tell them like, well, this is what we're doing, because you want them to understand. So I feel like that was also another time where we felt like our voice was heard, where we're sharing our culture and, you know, how many differences they have. So I felt like that was another really good time that we were able to voice on how we felt about our culture and how they really are.
Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing that one. That's a heavy response, right? So the next one comes from one of our senators, Rollo, and he asked, what do you feel is the best way for non-natives to be supportive and advocate for Native Americans and their rights? And then if you wanted to share screen again, feel free to. It'll just take it off, and I'll come back to the last question after.
Oh yeah, the pictures piece of the jewelry.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so this is some of our tribe's jewelry, and the best way we felt like people could support non-native specifically is, like we said earlier, find a local store or shop, or, you know, go visit a powwow, and purchase from them. You know, they have like t-shirts, they have jewelry, they have a whole bunch of stuff. And like I said, like a lot of times, like our cultural attire can be, you know, it becomes a fad. Like I think every culture kind of goes through that. Forever 21 and Charlotte Russe and all those major stores, they get a hold of it, and people buy from them. But you know, it'd be nice if you bought from an actual native shop, like even stuff like herbs, like sage. I know a lot of people like to use sage. That's a Native American herb, but I don't know. Mostly just like support.
He took it off the question.
Oh,
no, it's okay.
I think also, I mean, we said this before, but definitely visit the res. They will definitely welcome you with open arms. I mean, I feel like for a lot of Indigenous people, they will welcome anyone who wants genuine knowledge on them. I mean, why wouldn't you want to share your culture with all these people? You know, like it's something you love and you're really proud of it. You just have to go about it respectfully, you know. But I feel like a lot of the time, you just have to know your boundaries and just, you know, tread respectfully. And a lot of people will welcome you into their culture because, I mean, like I said, like they're very proud of it. So who wouldn't want to share that with other people? And like I said too, earlier for like, in the Santa Barbara over there on the res, they give workshops. They give like basket weaving, like you can learn how to do that.
Language classes, canoe classes, or how to build the canoe. I mean, like they said, you can educate yourselves by going to them. You can buy their jewelry, and then sometimes you have to learn where there's a set boundary where they're going to want to keep things within themselves and traditional for their tribe, but they're really not against the outsiders learning what they have to offer.
Yeah. And also there's a museum in Thousand Oaks that you can visit that I was saying. My niece has visited there with my mom, and she has a picture inside one of the huts. So that's also really cool as well. But yeah, I think overall just, I mean, educate yourselves and don't be afraid to step out and, you know, ask questions, but always like in a respectful way, you know?
The key is to come respectfully, because if you come like, oh, what's this? I want this, I want to take this, and I want to share this. That's where it gets, they're like, wait, what are you doing? We want to share with boundaries.
Also, I just want to touch really quickly on this necklace right over here is actually a necklace that my grandpa had given my mom. And it is, let me see, a dentilium. So this is the white part right here. And then this part over here is abalone, which they like to use a lot.
Yeah.
And then right over here, this is a picture of a jewelry table that was at the powwow. And you can see this is one of the fish hooks that they like to put in there too. And then also here's some more abalone up in here too with the dentilium as well. So I just wanted to show you guys that really quick.
For the latter part of the question, it says advocate for Native American rights. You can join a movement. I know a while ago, the Dakota Access Pipeline, that was a huge Native American movement. Even if you don't go to, say, like if they're protesting or something like that, and I think this goes for any culture, same thing with like the Mauna Kea for the Hawaiians. You don't have to go, you know, it's like I can't afford to go all the way out there, but you can definitely support in other ways by sending them like food and water, or anything else that they need. I know people are camping out there, like blankets, you can donate. I mean, I can't think of like specific links off my head, but there's other ways that you can help out without being there. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think that's mostly it.
Oh, no problem, Rolo.
Oh.
He said thank you.
Oh.
And then we come to the final of the 6 questions, which is from one of our international officers, Yiya Wang. She asked, how can we as student leaders advocate for Native Americans and help preserve their heritage? Which I realize is very similar to the last one, but I think there are some subtle differences. I definitely say about if y'all could answer to the help preserve their heritage, that would probably be the best. Yeah.
Definitely respect, and that goes back to when we showed the last slide with the cave. I mean, that's just one example of that people want to take pictures and share, which is nice to have for your own memory, but think about how it feels when you're taking pictures and then it starts to fade, about that we have nothing. Basically, you're erasing the only memories our ancestors and we have of our ancestors. So keep that in mind of when you're trying to admire something, but also think about how it feels like, okay, what am I doing if I'm erasing it in that situation, you know?
Yeah. Just being mindful.
Yeah, be very mindful, and respect is like key for this whole culture presentation. If you don't come with respect, it just all bad.
Yeah,
Don't.
and there's like small things too, like
I think doing the language too. I mean, that is such a huge thing to help preserve, to just pass on knowledge like that. Because like I said, for them in the very beginning, when the last native speaker had passed, thankfully they had someone who was like, you know, so interested in their language that he was documenting it for a decade. So that was also a huge thing. So he wasn't, I think to my knowledge, he wasn't a native.
No,
So
he wasn't.
Yeah,
he was not a native. But
if you guys look at this December's child, they actually talk a little bit about it.
No, he wasn't a native, but he studied it because he was a college professor.
Yeah.
So I mean, he really saved us because she was the last one who really knew our culture, and now language. And now he's helped us put it back into our tribe to teach our children, and he's learned it to several other he's taught it to several other teachers to help them also spread it. So, I mean, he's a non-native, and look how much he's helped us. That's a perfect example of someone helping us to preserve our culture.
Yeah, I think another one too, like it's kind of like unprofessional to mention like TikTok, but there is actually like a heavy Native American presence on TikTok. And there was one specific video of an Inuit girl, like so like I think their Inuit tribe is like up in Alaska. She's doing what their tribe is called throat singing, and if you don't know what it is, I guess it would sound kind of weird, like, you know, because it's like the way they're singing is with their throats really deep and kind of gargly, but a lot of people were making fun of it. But the cool thing was a lot of people were also defending it. And so doing stuff like that, like if you see somebody making fun of any culture, you know, using your voice to like, dudes, you know, don't do that. What's wrong with you? Like, have some respect. You telling that person, like, please have some respect for this person's culture, that helps preserve our heritage, because obviously when you get made fun of for doing something,
don't shame them.
Yeah, don't shame them for it, because you know when you're getting made fun of, like you want to draw back a little bit, and you know you want to keep it to yourself. But you know, by you saying like, hey man, that wasn't cool, like why would you talk about that person like that, like respect their culture, respect their heritage, you know, that makes us feel a little bit better, like, oh my god, like thank you, like that helps us to continue to allow us to be ourselves, you know what I mean, and helps us feel more open, yeah. So there are like definitely some small things like feel like that help out a lot.
Yeah.
So actually, shout out to my boy Aaron Marks. He's one of my ex-colleagues from Skyline College. And I know I had hit up your mom maybe like 6 years ago. I was like, hey, I met someone that does assistant work for a linguist with the Chumash tribe.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was him. He worked at our college as a graduate tutor. He went to school in New Mexico, and then he was helping the person who was helping to resurrect the language. And I think what he told me was he helped on working on the dictionary.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, his name's Aaron Marks. He's not the guy who the main professor who did most of the work and lived there and really took time, but Aaron was going back and forth while he was in grad school. And yeah, he worked with us at Skyline College, and now I think he's teaching at SF State. So it's just awesome. Like what are the chances of that too, right? Like there's so many different tribes in our state. But that was one of the ones that he was helping out. I know he did a couple different projects, and yeah, that was one of them. So
Yeah,
but you're right. Both of the men, both the gentlemen who worked on the project, if I'm remembering correctly, are both Balangi, or they're both.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So when y'all were mentioning that, I was like, hey, I know who that is, or I know at least who his assistant was.
Yeah. Oh, very cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
That was awesome. They made like a whole teaching curriculum, and now they actively teach that to the kids. So, you know, they can take that and to the next generation, you know? So that was a really cool thing. Yeah, it's like a 600-page like dictionary. There's pictures in there, even how to pronounce in that dictionary. So
pronunciation is hard, not gonna lie.
yeah, but it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that was, you know, again, it was like 6 years ago. So it was a long time ago. I had let her know about it. Maybe it was longer than that. Maybe like 2013 or something like that. Yeah. So it was quite a while, but yeah, that's definitely the same person. I just hopped on my phone real quick while y'all were talking about it. I looked him up because we're still friends on there. And then yeah, it was like he was mentioning everything in his bio, and I was like, damn, that's the same person. That's so trippy. So I did want to, we do have a couple minutes. I did want to, I'm not rushing anybody off. I did want to open the floor to any of our officers. A lot of them are very, I got to tell y'all about this council. A lot of them are strong personalities, and I know that some of them are just dying to ask y'all questions, right? So I'm going to open up the floor to any of you guys that want to go ahead and just unmute and ask the Thompson sisters yourselves your question. If you can please go on camera for that, that'd be as respectful as possible. But if not, I understand. And if not, you could always just type it in too if you're like in the car or something. So I'll just wait here. But yeah,
No, we'll just wait.
Patiently.
and then Thompson sisters, if you could stay with Elaine and Alvin and I after, because we'll have a quick debrief.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Are there any questions or comments?
I do.
All right, there you go.
Is my camera working? It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
good.
fine with you.
Okay, so my question is that y'all said like in the beginning this is like an opportunity for y'all to like talk about like your native side, because that's not something that folks are or don't have the opportunity to speak of. So like a lot of our students too are in the sense that they're kind of discovering themselves through their culture and through their historical work. So I was just wondering what kind of what was your like experience like just trying to connect back to your heritage or to your culture, and if you have any like tips on how can our students do that for themselves too.
So, I mean, for Native American wise, when we were younger, we really didn't connect with our Native American side, but I would say probably, when did we go to the powwow? With all of our cousins.
2011.
Yeah, I think 2011.
So 2011, my mom got her sisters and she said, you know what, we're gonna go down to the res and we're just gonna like experience a powwow. And when we went down, that was probably the first time, at least from my knowledge, that we were exposed to our Native American culture. And then as you get older, you know, you get kind of curious on your own without your parents' influence. And that was the first door open to us. So personally, I feel like everyone here is older or old enough to take that step towards your culture and dig a little bit further. Of course, you're going to have to go back to your grandparents or your mom to get, okay, mom, where's my family from here?
Yeah, and don't be afraid to bug them. That's one thing I learned is like sometimes like your parents or your grandparents, like they're older, they don't really want to talk about it, or sometimes they really do want to talk about it, you know what I mean? But like I know my dad, he works a lot, and sometimes he comes home, he's tired, he don't want to talk, but I'm like, Dad, no, I need to know this. Like, what does this word mean? You know, oh shoot, like, how do we know this family member? You know, if
you have to go back to the source.
Yeah, if you want to know your culture, be adamant about it. Like, don't be discouraged if someone's like, later, you know, like later, like, you know, be like, no, I need to know now, because well, you know, there might not be later, you know what I mean? And
or there's been situations where I know every family is different and they're like, okay, well, my grandmother, she's still not here, or my, you know, my mom, maybe for different reasons, she's not here to tell me my culture. I know I'm going to be honest, sometimes I go on Facebook and I'm like, hey dad, like this person has the same last name as us. Are they related to us? How are we connected? And you dig a little bit deeper, you find ways to go in your culture, and you find ways to, if you're really driven, you're going to find little, you know, insights. Okay, this is my aunt on my cousin's side, or okay, culture wise, this means something in our culture. This is going back to, for example, my Samoan side, my dad, like we said, he's tired sometimes. He doesn't always want to answer our questions, but I've reached out to people in Samoa, and sometimes I go on Zoom calls, or sometimes I found people in New Zealand to teach me things on social media like that. And everyone has different opinions on stuff, so I always keep my teachings very like open. Never like, oh, well, this person said that, or this person says this.
Keep an open mind.
That's how I've done it culture wise. I know from my Samoan side, sometimes like I'll go follow a Samoan girl on Instagram or Miss Samoa, and she's advertising, hey, on Zoom class, this person's teaching Samoan language classes. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to hop on. I want to learn more about my culture. Those are just simple ways that I've done my own research, other than, okay, maybe you don't have grandparents around or your parents. So,
or, you know, because like I said, you know, like Pisa mentioned, we didn't grow up on the res. So we didn't have like, and neither did my mom. So my grandfather's there now, but you know, it's all the way in Santa Barbara. It gets hard to go back and forth all the time. So what I started doing is I started looking for books, and that's why I purchased this December's Child's book to learn more about our oral narratives. Like if you can find, get access to books or any like historical documents or anything like that, go for it. You know, there's a lot of stuff on Amazon that I find. You kind of just got to sort through. I read a lot of reviews and sort through like, you know, all the information, like this is a really good book, or sometimes people will comment in the reviews like this book was okay, but you know, they didn't have a lot of information on it. But you know, so it's definitely like just being adamant and kind of doing your own research, which is kind of what we did for, you know, the Polynesian Chumash connection. You know, a lot of that was our own research looking into it.
Yeah. So Ryan, there's some questions coming in on the comments.
Please feel free to take them.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Sorry, we have a dog. So, excuse me if I say your name wrong. Jezreel. She said, I don't got a question, but I love your energy and I definitely learned a lot. Oh, thank you.
Much.
And then Thailand said, are there any pressure or practices from the culture that you do not typically agree with? Personally, my answer is going to be no, but I am pretty sure that if you were to ask people who are probably more into the culture, that they see it from other people's point of view, like, hey, they shouldn't be doing that, and they feel differently. The way I'm seeing the question is like if someone were to say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that because our culture doesn't think that's okay, then that's a different view. I'm sure other people think differently, you know, but for us, I don't think
Weirdly,
so.
I feel like pressures or practices, like, because we like love dancing and like just love immersing ourselves like in the Tahitian culture, like I feel like our values kind of like
matched up. Yeah, so
because
maybe
they're
we're
super
not
into
really.
that, and you know, being like really in touch with that cultural side. So I feel like we would have got along great. Like if we would have lived on the res, we probably would have been living the same type of life, but just you know, a different type of dance, maybe, you know. I feel like weirdly everything kind of lined up, like kind of similarly.
Specific that I could think of that I disagree with.
The next question is, are there any conflicts within religion beliefs in regards to your different cultures, ethnicities? So there definitely are conflicts, but not that we find difficult. Like, for example, I know that our Samoan culture, it's Christian, and then our native culture, of course, they have a whole bunch of different things, but we don't find it personally hard to mix them, which I'm honestly really surprised that we don't, because we're so mixed. But personally, I'm a person of God, and I just follow, you know, that's how we were brought up. My dad's always saying God first, then family, and then everything else. But that's a good question to us, because surprisingly, no, they don't mix as much as people probably think they do.
For religion beliefs, for me, it's definitely like there's a higher power, but like there's nothing like set in stone for my beliefs where I'm like, it has to be like this. I think we kind of go with the flow, to be honest, but definitely like, you know, respect towards all different
respectfully.
I know like someone, maybe even other Polynesian, they're really into church and stuff like that. But like it's not that I like disagree with like them following God, because I mean, it's just, I think more so of my personal own path is I started looking into my different cultures and their gods just to get a better understanding. And I'm not saying we're Chumash Native American, we need to follow Hutash and our creation goddess, and you know, we're Samoan and we should follow their creation god, you know what I mean? I think honestly it's to each their own. I still like love God, believe in God, but at the same time I want to educate myself on our gods and goddesses from our different culture, and you know, because that too, studying that can help you get a better understanding of your cultures and why they thought the things they did and why they did certain practices, and you know, I feel like it just helps you gain a better understanding.
Although if my grandma was seeing this, she would disagree.
Oh my God, yeah. Don't ever tell my grandma I said that.
Grandma is I'm gonna be someone, she always lectures us on not making it to church on Sundays. She like,
I'm gonna be honest, being mixed, we don't change who we are, but when you go to your Samoan side, you believe in one God. When you go into your Native American, okay, there's gods. When you go to your Mexican side, you know, like Mary's top one, and then there's God. We're so mixed that we respectfully, we respect our family's wishes.
You learn to respect every culture in their own distinct way.
Yes.
But shout out to your parents for that, for real, because I speak in I could see in their shoes how that is, you know, being not Polynesian at all, just being Asian, and then married to Vairea and having children that are like y'all, who are half one thing and half another. It's on the parents to really work together to create that harmony that y'all are talking about, because Yeah, I love seeing and hearing from the three of you say that it's worked out where you know what hat to put on
Yeah.
in the presence of your Samoan side or say your native side. And that's what I hope that my kids would do, because I don't want them to think that they're just these American kids and they're different than their family in Tahiti. But I also don't want them to be here in the States and think they're just Tahitian and think that they're different because they're from Tahiti. Like they're both. They're half and half. So if y'all are saying that, then I'm gonna go off, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and just say, like, then your parents did the right thing with y'all, because y'all are able to put on the right hat in the presence of, say, your grandma or on the res. You're not on the res preaching about your dad's side and their church, how everyone should do that, but you're also like not in front of your grandma and grandpa and like telling them like, well, because we're half Chumash, I don't know about da da da.
That's what this goes back
It's
to,
all
like
about
being
respect.
respect. You
Right.
other people's beliefs and you can't throw it in their face like, well, like you said, like I'm something different, but like you said, like where we go, you just have to respect where they're coming from and their views, because I mean, how else can you do that? I don't know. That's how we were raised.
I think being mixed definitely introduced us to that aspect of like everybody is different and there is no right, like one way or wrong way, you know what I mean? Like being mixed really taught us like you have to be able to respect everybody's culture, and because we can't do that and go up to our Samoan grandma and be like, well, according to our creation goddess, like that's not how it happened, you know what I mean? And I can't go over to like my native grandpa and be like, well, my Samoan grandma said, Jesus first, you know what I mean? So being mixed definitely taught us like how to be respectful in each culture, because we didn't have choice.
I have a question if I can ask it real quick, Ryan.
Go for it, Thomas.
Awesome. So I think you guys were saying on the indigenous side that the language has been not lost, but the last person that spoke it has moved on. Has there been any big push in your generation or the generations below to relearn it?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Okay. So like
I was like, I hope so.
No, for sure. Like we were saying, that linguist actually helped to make a dictionary. It's like 600 pages, like super thorough. And then they created a teaching, what's it called? System is not the right word.
Well, no, they have classes.
Classes, but they made all of that. So they're teaching it to the younger generations. You can actually visit the website. They have a website that you can view, and they give you like a small clip.
When the person passed away, it was an eye opener to get it started more and grow it. And that's what they've done.
So every month we get, this one's kind of old, I just picked one up, but a Samala booklet. And in it, they actually have like a language corner. And they have Samala language classes. So
they have singing classes,
traditional supplies gathering. But I don't know if you can see it, like in this, in this like little corner over here, they actually give you actual words. I know, sorry, I'm like hella reaching.
We should take a picture and put it on the slide.
But to answer your question, yes, they have. Yeah. They've done, if you look on Chumash Native American and then Santa Barbara, you search in your Google, you literally click on the page and it'll say language. There's a ton of things that they've, not only to the natives on their land, but to the non-natives too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
No problem.
Yeah,
I know, like I'm gonna see this.
Sit down.
We're gonna stay on task, and I love all the questions that we got extra, so thank you, students. We're gonna go ahead and stop recording at this point, and then we're gonna take our photo, if that's okay. So all the students can prepare themselves, like Alvin always says, get your hair right, fix your face how you're trying to look. So
that is totally horrible.
Yeah, there you go.